Yep. But today's the day of happiness in our country, right?
Yes. I
In-
mean, every
International.
the day of happiness. But yes,
Yeah.
apparently there is some official happiness thing happening. I
Yep.
love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
a great day, and it's a day to be glad. And my my son John's wife calls it undisciplined smiling day.
I love that. And when they talk about, they say that even if you're not feeling in the mood, if you just make yourself smile, that it just shifts your whole perspective.
It,
And that really is true.
it really does. And that would be undisciplined smiling. It's
Right,
not,
right,
it has no purpose except that you want to
right,
smile.
right. Um, and it is the spring equinox. So the beginning of the astrological, almost the beginning of the astrological new year, but it's also that time when day equals night.
Right, right.
Time to seed new beginnings.
Absolutely. And we can do that today. That would be a very happy day to do that.
I think so too. And it's so the interesting thing I was sharing with you, and then I want to find out about how, and I know everybody wants to know how you're feeling.
Yeah,
On the day where you're supposed to be starting new beginnings.
yeah,
Well, yesterday I twisted my ankle pretty hard and snapped the little distal part of the fibula off a little bit. And so there's part of me that feels like, well, that's an interesting setback. I mean, when you look up in Louise Hay, who we love, the foot, the knee, it's all about being afraid to step forward in your life.
yeah,
So it's just kind of interesting. I'm sort of sitting in that space of like new beginnings. Maybe I
yeah.
have to slow down before I move forward.
And your body's telling you something. And is it the right leg or the left leg?
The left leg.
Okay, so it's your feminine side. You've been, in other words, it's your opportunity to femifest while you've been manifesting.
Love that. Okay, let's go.
So,
Well, and interesting that that I did it while I was getting my workshop space
right,
together.
right, right. It was the, something that stepped in the way of you, the way you were putting your workshop together. Your body stopped you long enough to make you do something else besides that, which made you step into another space, which is a new beginning for you.
Interesting. I love that perspective.
Yeah.
Ah, oh, I just want to, somebody just posted, Dr. McGarry, I admire you in healthcare for 25 years.
Oh.
An herbalist, and you inspire me to go back to school for medicine. That's so cool.
Oh.
That's great.
How wonderful.
Yeah, that's so good.
That,
So, how are you healing up? Where are you in your healing journey?
I'm doing well. It would what is it, John? 15 days?
5 weeks.
5 weeks, 5 weeks since my tricycle
Mishap.
knocked me off. It bucked me off like a bucking horse, and I landed on my side, my right side, and broke 3 ribs. Well, they're all healed, and we're doing fine. I have no pain in any of them. They've all settled themselves back down again,
Great.
and we're happy.
And your lungs are clear.
My
Everything
lungs
feels good
are
there.
clear. What happened was that it did puncture my lung, and so I had fluid in my lung, which they had to drain. That landed me in the hospital, but then we got that taken care of. and we're fine now. So, but it was one of these things that somehow had to get my attention. And uh, as of now, my grown children who are uh, in the they are the elderly. I'm the ancient one, but they're the elderly. They have put out the edict that I can't ride my tricycle anymore. So it's standing on my porch, and I'm lecturing to it and telling it was a bad. Her name was Redbird, and it was a bad thing to do. Anyway, it did what it did. We did what we did. We lived through it. We didn't just cover it up. And I've had a lot of lessons to learn with the whole process.
Right.
So that's great.
And always that opportunity to look, that fresh start, to look and see what's being offered.
Right.
And what, how, yeah.
And how it fits into the very ongoing life process that we're in. You know, this whole idea of happiness and joy and be glad and so on is something that the world is really crying for now. You know, there's so much fear, there's so much anger, there's so much misrepresentation, and that it's very, very confusing. So it's our personal responsibility to look for what it is that we want to look for. You know, what is it that should make us happy today? Uh, or should we even try to? Or should we be undisciplinedly smiling, you know? And it's that kind of an opportunity to actually look. Well, for me, it was kind of interesting today because I started thinking about when I was 86 years old, and my brother Carl asked me if I could, because I was just getting retiring from the practice of medicine. And if I would be interested in going to Afghanistan and working with the Afghani women in their birthing procedures, because they had the highest maternal mortality rate in the world, and we could get no information about why, because the women were not allowed to talk to any men about what was going on. So it was a cultural block that the Future Generations group couldn't break through. So since I was making a new beginning, which is when we're talking about new beginning, and in that I was retiring from my practice of medicine, I had this wonderful opportunity to go to Afghanistan and work with these women there in helping them understand the whole birthing procedure. And I'm wearing this necklace today because one of the women in the group
Beautiful.
was, yeah, isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
It's a bead. It's beaded. She was pregnant. So Dr. Shukri and I had thought we might have the opportunity to help her with her birthing process. And if she went into labor while we were there, which she didn't do, but we had the opportunity of talking to them about how we would work with this. Well, the whole thing that happened was that the Afghani women knew how they got pregnant, but after that they knew nothing about what was going on inside of them. It's like, if, we, when we're having indigestion or something, we don't really know where is going, what is going on in there. So it was a mystery. But what we had the opportunity of doing is asking each one of them, there were 36 of them, and each one of them got to tell her birthing stories, which she had never had the opportunity to tell anybody. Nobody wanted to hear about that. Other women didn't, and men certainly weren't going to listen. So we had the opportunity of documenting the whole process in this research that we were doing with these women. And we found out that what the problem was, there were several problems. First of all, when a woman got pregnant, she was taken off of all uh, calcium producing foods, carrots and yogurt and so on, because those were supposed to be not good for her. So throughout the pregnancy, she was uh, uh, really not being fed properly.
Right.
And when they talked about being in labor, they all of them said they were in labor like this. Well, uh, that's hypocalcemic tetany. And so when they were just telling us that,
NIH.gov.
they were really able.
Hypocalcemic tetany.
Alexa, stop. So anyway, that was one of the things. The next thing was that when they went into labor, they were not given anything to eat or drink during the pregnancy. And so here we have a woman who is hypocalcemic in hypocalcemic tetany. She's
Not
starved and hungry and weak. And now she's expected to push the baby out,
wow.
and she can't. So somebody from the outside pushed the baby out.
God.
So what happened? You had ruptured uterus.
Yeah.
You had prolapse bladder. You had uh, really, really bad outcome from
Right.
from the actual delivery process. So we spent this whole week with them, got all 36 stories, were told how they did it, and I had Dr. Shukriya Hassan was my partner in doing working with this, and I had a little piece of blackboard and a piece of chalk, and I explained to them what was going on when they got pregnant, about how the sperm came up the vagina and found its egg. And I said, and that, you know, that's the way you it happened. And one of the women said, "How many sperm?" I said, "Millions." And they said, "How many eggs?" I said, "One." And you got to choose that egg. And these all of them put their shoulders back and sat up straight. They never knew they had any choice in this.
Wow.
Anyway, it was that kind of joyous, happy time that we spent together. And on the Wednesday evening of it, these women all spontaneous got up, and they were dancing and they were singing and they were clapping their hands. And I started to take some pictures of it. And they said, "No, no, 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 you can't. You mustn't. Because if our husbands knew that we were doing this, we would be punished."
Ugh.
So they weren't allowed to do that kind of
Wow.
joyous happiness. However, the whole process was so successful that we had such a wonderful time. And the lady who did not birth her baby gave me this necklace which she had made.
Oh,
And and so I'm wearing it to show you folks. It's a beautiful beaded
yeah, it is.
necklace. And um, the the so that week that I spent with these wonderful, strong women who it wasn't their fault. It was not just not knowing,
Right.
not being able to understand what was going on. Anyway, within uh, 3 months after we had this week and a week of work with these women, the maternal mortality rate began to shift in Afghanistan.
Wow.
So for me, uh, uh, this was a really, really happy time. Undisciplined smiling, talk about how wonderful it was to work with these amazing women
Mhm.
and give them the opportunity to take this message back to their people, to their women. The funny thing was that when we asked we had to get the permission of the men before we could do this. So we asked them if we could talk to their women, and they said no. And Shukriya, bless her heart, said she was an MD and she was actually kind of an outcast in her group. But anyway, she was amazing. She said to the men, "Well, the women we're looking for are your mothers in law. Well, you can have them."
Wow.
Well, of course, those were the women we wanted, the women who had had babies
Right, right.
and had worked with it. So it was an amazing, amazing time to actually feel the joy of um, watching these amazing women open their minds to
Mm.
their bodies, which they had never, ever thought of doing. And here they are understanding what's going on during this whole time and that they needed help, but not from the outside.
It is
And yeah,
remarkable. I mean, when you see the light go on for somebody about that inner wisdom of the body's ability to heal itself or take care of itself, and you know that they've gotten it,
oh,
that's so good.
it, it was just awesome,
Yeah.
absolutely awesome. And so it was this kind of a for me, it was a wonderful experience. And another interesting thing, when we were talking about the possibility of having a birthing during the program, uh, Shukriya and I were talking about how we would try to keep the a sterile field
Mm.
because we were eating and sleeping on a dirt floor. And I said, well, we could use a newspaper because when I was doing home deliveries, I used a newspaper because the printer's ink actually created uh, a, as clean or sterile a field as we could get.
Hmm.
But Shukriya said we can't use a newspaper. And I said, why not? She said, because all of the Afghani newspapers have a quote from the Quran in the in every page of the newspaper. So this is holy, no, yeah,
Yeah.
holy paper. It's sacred. That's what I'm trying. It's sacred paper, and we can't desecrate it like that. So we found some cloths and so on that we were going to use. She did go into labor during the time, but we were working with this whole process of birthing and
Amazing
amazing.
that that I would say that that's one of the most sacred things there is to birth a baby. So it's, I know it's
Mm.
cultural, religious thing, but it's just so interesting. And somebody asked farther up in the chat, where do you think they got the idea that those foods were not good for them?
Well,
Like,
you know, the funny thing about that, one of the women said as they were talking among themselves, why are we saying, why did we do this? And another woman said, must have been some man thought it up. So, it was just one of these cultural things that
mm,
he had evolved. And
no questioned it.
and the women weren't allowed to question it. They
Mm.
did not have undisciplined smiling, you know.
Well,
So,
they were in closed quarters with you.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
For this week long,
yeah.
the only people who knew what we were saying or what they were saying, and we were recording,
Mm,
was this
mm.
group of women. And
That's so amazing.
then they had the opportunity. Think of this. I love this. Women teach women. We like to teach. If we learn something, we share it. We have to share it. And it's that kind of a reaching for the sisterhood of humankind that is really an amazing thing for us to be happy about and undisciplinedly smiling.
Somebody was asking why weren't the women allowed things and why the man decided for them.
Because men decided things.
Yeah.
Women actually, huh, think about through eons of time, women have been in this position. And we're just now, we're really beginning to stand up and say, no, we are important.
Right.
And we need to femifest because you can't manifest if we don't femifest.
Right.
And some of the other language that we've come up with that allows us to say these things. But in cultures like Afghanistan, when I was 90, yeah, 96, what was I, 96 years old. Anyway, I had the opportunity of going there and talking to them. Isn't life awesome?
Yes.
So they couldn't read or write. They weren't stupid.
Wow.
They were ignorant. They
Right.
didn't know any better.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
they did the best they could. And so, um, yeah, but honestly, within 3 months, the statistics began to change.
Amazing. So somebody's asking, how do you not get angry about the injustice against women?
Why should we spend time being angry about it when we actually are doing something about it? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm not angry about that. That's just the way things were.
Right.
We knew no better. Like the Afghani women knew no better. They knew what they heard and what they were taught, and that's what they lived. Well, when they learned something, they taught it.
Right.
To me, why should I be angry about that when I can be so happy about the fact that
Now they,
that one week we were able to connect with womanhood, with the femifested womanhood that was able to take their message to other women. Now, uh, uh, you know, we had to work around the men to let that happen. But when we said their mothers-in-law, well, they were happy to do that. It's that
yeah.
kind of foolish ignorance that we were working with. But but we were working with it, and we
Um,
went on with it.
I have somebody here who says, I'm such a fan of you, Gladys. I live in beautiful British Columbia. Would love to take you out for coffee if I'm ever in your neck of the woods.
How lovely. Oh,
So I,
I'm in such awe of the fact that I can talk to you around the world. I mean, uh, you wonderful people, you wonderful women, men and women alike, are listening to what it is that we are in the process of working with and doing. And this whole concept of a village for living medicine and the uh, reaching for the light and working with women and men and understanding the difference between femifesting and manifesting, all of these things are hugely exciting, you know?
yeah,
And the fact that the Afghani women just didn't know about it, but their men didn't know about it either. It
right.
wasn't just the men were taught
From that
to
before that,
really abuse the women. Yeah.
right. Um, so Linda is just saying, we love you, Dr. Gladys. It's so lovely to see that you are a lot better. You amaze us all. A lovely lady inside and out.
How lovely.
And
Thank you. Thank you.
said what you just said about not being angry, but doing something to help change is the only way to heal our world. Yes, it
Right.
is.
It is. It is. Why
And
should we start a war against something that was happened? We lived through those times, you know.
mhm,
There were and our when I was in medical school, we really were doing working trying to figure out how we were going to birth our babies, since we in our ignorance were using twilight sleep. In other words, my
right.
first two babies, was it was 24 hours before I knew I had a son,
Mm,
because we were in this um, ignorant place, which was thought to be the most advanced way of birthing. So you went into the hospital, you were given twilight sleep, you didn't feel anything, you didn't know anything, you didn't understand that the baby is already
uh,
born until at least 24 hours after the baby was born. So that meant that we could not birth our own babies. We had to be delivered of our
mm,
babies. So I was taught how to use forceps, and I was good at it. I was very good at applying the forceps and getting it in position, getting the baby in position, making sure I'm not hurting any or injury. You know, that's the way I was taught. And that's the way I was helping women birth their babies, and that's why we call it uh, labor. You know, instead of and you know what we're in our. Why should we be angry? The past. Think about what we do. We talk about birthing babies as being in labor because if you're in labor, you can't push the baby out. So you have to have something to help you get the baby out, which means that you have to have uh, whatever. And we're just now beginning to re educate ourselves into the fact that we as women need to reclaim who we are. We are the ones who birth babies. We don't have to be delivered of them. We need to reclaim our power
yes.
and say, No, we're the ones who birth these babies. Now, sometimes we need help, and sometimes it's absolutely essential. Sometimes you need a C-section. Sometimes, you know, you need some help with the birthing process. However, if we reclaim our true feminine power and understand that it's our privilege, our responsibility to do the best that we can do in the whole birthing process, and then birth our own babies.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. And so we have someone that's asking, so amazing, what advice would you give to a 42-year young woman preparing to start a family this year?
Why not?
Right.
You
But
know, you,
I mean,
you
you know,
42,
oh, go.
you're still, why not?
But in the medical world at 42, I would imagine that they're saying that that is, a bit
You're
old, it's high risk, they're going to
sure,
different
sure,
and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, but still, that's because we've given up our power.
Mm,
And maybe she's 42, and maybe she doesn't need to give up her power. And maybe she understands things about her body that the other people don't. And maybe there's a baby out there who wants to come in. And maybe, I mean, there are all of these things of which are part of the whole living process, which if we accept from our bodies our bodies tell us and understand what it is that we're working with, then 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 listen to them.
mm.
I had to listen to my body when my uh, you know birth, the red bird bucked me off. But I really had to pay attention to my body.
Mhm.
I was being ignorant. No, I wasn't. Yes, I was. But the
What,
fact of the matter
what were
was, I
you
was
right about?
living. The fact of the matter was, I was living through a process in my life that I had chosen to live through, and my body had just kind of uh, let me know that there was a time and a place for everything.
Mm, okay. We have somebody saying, I am a Middle Eastern and a fighter. I want to become a doctor in my mid 40s. You are my role model. Looking at you, I get power and reassures me that it's never too late for advancement.
And a girl, when I was in medical school, I had a classmate who was 52. She'd been a professor in Stanford when she came into medical school.
Wow. She was 52.
Uh-huh.
Wow. That's impressive. Because that was in what year? 40s?
41,
Right.
41. And
Right.
I was 21 when I started
Wow.
medical school.
Wow. So I have a question for you. Given that we started this with being happy and choosing, the happiness, and also the spring, the first day of spring, and the starting of planting seeds and new things. How would you, like, over the course of your career, how many times did you start something new within your career?
Oh my.
Hard to say, but
Yeah.
like, you were
Well,
willing to start something new, a new fresh perspective, a new way of looking, right?
yeah, well, uh, a new way of looking. During my medical training, I got sent to the psychiatrist three different times because my dean thought I didn't have the makings of a physician, and because I was asking questions, and
that nobody else was asking.
yeah. So anyway, and then when we started our practice, Bill and I was working with women in this little town in Ohio, and some of these women were out in little huts in the villages outside of the Wellsville, and very, very primitive conditions. And I have all kinds of stories there. But then when we moved to Phoenix, uh, um, the book Silent Spring by Rachel Carson had just been written, and we got immersed in this whole flood of new information about diet and so on, and got picked up with that. And the result of that was uh, the American Holistic Medical Association took us 2 years to figure out how to spell holistic, because the work that we were looking for had to do with health, healing, and holy. That whole aspect of medicine had been completely wiped out. And I can't tell you how many times I had to appear before Maricopa County Medical Association because I was doing things that they were questioning and I had to answer to. So, these are things that are still ongoing. It's part of life's process.
And don't you think that, I mean, that's for me, that's what keeps it interesting,
Yeah.
is when there's something new, there's something fresh, a new way to look at it. You keep learning. I feel like when people just, they don't choose that, they just stay in the rut. That
Well,
rut,
if you stay in the dark, it's a rut and you're
right.
stuck. If you're looking for the light, you find it.
Mm,
And the light has to do with joy and happiness. And be glad. If I'd stuck up with my anger and process that I was going through with when Bill asked for divorce, I I hate to think about it. But when I latched on to the be glad and got my license plate, so I had to be glad, then I was able to pull myself out of the rut and get back into my life.
mm.
And life just opened up so that I
So,
was able to write to Bill and say, thank you for giving me my freedom, because that's what I derived from the process, that because it had always been Bill and Gladys, now it was Dr.
mm,
Gladys. Prior to
mhm,
that, I was always a tag along.
right, right. Somebody's asking, if I love work, if I love the work that I love, I'm not totally get this, but should I think about retirement as per society request, or should I keep going? Judith from Melbourne, Australia.
Ask yourself, ask yourself in dreams, ask yourself in the material, whatsoever is happening in your life.
Mm,
Why should you be told what you should do? Ask yourself,
right. Yeah, I mean, it may just take a different form, right?
Yeah,
You may shift how you're working, like
you
you. You
may
kept
have an opportunity to do something amazing, but you may have the opportunity to just refreshen. That's is that a word?
re,
I don't know. to,
yeah,
spruce up the way you're doing it.
right. Somebody else is saying I'm reading your book. You changed the way I'm looking at things in my life, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for getting the message.
Somebody else, we're so fortunate to have her and be able to hear her truths, experience, and more at this day and age. Thank you, Dr. Gladys.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for picking it up and doing it, you know. It wouldn't amount, everything that I've done wouldn't amount to a hill of beans if you guys didn't pick it up and do it.
Right. And so that's that piece about, when you're sharing what you know, you're sharing wisdom so that others can read the wisdom, take in what works for them, and then share the wisdom. So it's just paying it forward. We keep passing it along, and that is how we're going to change the world.
It is. And some of the most simple things are things that have been misunderstood or misinterpreted or something. And we really, you know, I don't think that medicine is a war against disease and pain. I think the whole practice of medicine, the whole opportunity for us to work with the medical field is an opportunity to look at what life has given us and how we can deal with it, not just kill the disease or eradicate pain. I mean, that's how we got stuck.
Right, right, right. Okay, so we have one last question, and then I think we will wrap it up for today. So somebody says, can we ask Dr. Gladys what her take is on fasting, water fasting, and things like that, and eating just one meal a day as opposed to eating throughout the day, etc.?
If you choose that, I think it's a wonderful thing to do. I think it's something that's a personal choice. And just like anything we put into our mouths and put into our bodies is a personal choice. And therefore, we have people who could not do that because their bodies couldn't tolerate it. There are other people who could do what you're suggesting, and life would open up to them.
Right.
So it's finding out what your body tells you you should do.
Yeah, I do find it interesting that in most spiritual traditions, there is fasting involved.
Yes.
And there is a reason for that. Clear
Yeah. Yeah.
vessel.
But everybody can't do it.
Interesting. Interesting. So what is your new thing? What, I know you have a million new things because you get interviewed all the time and you have all these new and exciting things that happen. But what do you got coming up like this week that's new and makes you smile? What's the word that you've been saying? Unabashedly. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's people from around the world are calling in. I'm in awe of the amount of information that is being asked for. You know, I'm making phone calls and podcasts and so on for people all around the world, and I'm in total awe of that because I really I really think that we are, as a human race, are beginning to really begin to reach for our true humanity because we were given the opportunity to take care of the earth, and we didn't understand that, but we can understand it now if we try to, and then do what we can to help Mother Earth. I mean, you know, there's so many things that you can that we can do that are just awesome.
Well, the thing that I love too about all of this that you're doing is your energy is so inspiring and so warm and welcoming and enthusiastic and all of those things that when I think about you and I think about how excited you are when you say like, isn't life awesome? That energy is what's fueling you to just keep going. And that in and of itself, if we all had that motivation, inspiration, if we were sharing what we love, like we would all just be healthier and happier and would be so good.
And Katie, think about it. That's what you were doing when your ankle was twisted. You know, it's that ability to say, oh well, here's an opportunity for me to learn something
Mm,
that I can teach, and you're doing that.
mm,
So I think that, and you know, life steps in the way, and something happens,
right,
but
right,
it
right.
didn't stop you.
No,
Mm-mm.
no. Oh, Gladys, you are just such a treasure, and I am so happy that we were able to be on this week.
Uh-huh.
And we are all going to look forward to being on next week,
Absolutely.
and you can share with us your adventures and who you talk to around the globe
Yeah,
between then.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm in such awe of what's really happening
Mm,
in our world. How
yeah.
we how we are reaching for each other and to each other.
Yes. Yes. Well, I love you. Everybody's here that's listening loves you.
I,
So
and I love you right back.
sending so much good energy, and we will talk next week.
Absolutely.
All right, John, thank you for making it all happen.
You're welcome.
Okay, talk to you guys next week. All
Uh-huh.
right, Gladys.
Love you all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.